The first sound I heard wasn't my phone ringing, it was metal screaming, sharp and wrong, like someone ripping a door off its hinges with bare hands. Then my phone lit up, Maya's name flashing across the screen, and by the time the video connected, I already knew something was very, very off. She flipped the camera around, and there it was, a woman in a bathrobe at 6 in the morning, hair wild, makeup half melted, swinging bolt cutters at the lock on my Jeep like she was cracking open a bank vault. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about parking rules anymore. Now, before that morning, if you'd asked me what I thought about HOAs, I would have shrugged and said they were annoying at worst. Retired folks with clipboards, too much free time, a weird obsession with grass length and mailbox colors. I never imagined one of them would end up trying to break into federal property while I was deployed overseas. But here we were. Let me back up a bit, because none of this came out of nowhere. My name's Alex. At the time all this started, I was part of a joint federal task force, working long rotations outside the country. Heat, dust, long nights, the kind of job where you learn to compartmentalize just to stay sane. Back home, I owned exactly one thing of real value, my grandmother Elena's house. 3 bedrooms, creaky floors, a kitchen that always smelled faintly like cinnamon, and coffee no matter how long it had been since anyone cooked. She raised my sister and me after our parents died. That house wasn't just property, it was memory, it was grounding. When I got deployed, the plan was simple. My sister Maya would stay there, keep an eye on things, and I'd deal with the paperwork from afar. What I didn't know was that the house sat inside a neighborhood called Silver Hollow, and Silver Hollow came with a homeowners association run by a woman named Lorraine Peck. I didn't meet Lorraine in person at first. I met her through email. 2 weeks into my deployment, somewhere between briefings and trying to sleep through gunfire a few blocks away, I checked my inbox and saw a subject line that made me laugh out loud at first. HOA violation notice. Unauthorized vehicle. I assumed it was a mistake. The Jeep parked in my grandmother's driveway was government issued, clearly marked, legally registered, and not even visible from the street unless you really tried. Maya thought so too. She grabbed my deployment orders, walked over to the HOA office, and tried to clear it up like a normal person would. That was her first real encounter with Lorraine. Maya told me later that Lorraine didn't even look at the paperwork. She leaned back in her chair, exhaled like standing up alone had taken effort, and said, very calmly, "If your brother can't follow community standards, maybe this neighborhood isn't a good fit for your family." That line stuck with me. Not because it was aggressive, but because it was rehearsed like she'd said it before, like it was part of a script. Over the next few weeks, the emails kept coming. Unauthorized vehicle. Aesthetic disruption. Community disharmony. That last one really got me. Community disharmony. My Jeep hadn't moved in days. No noise, no traffic, nothing. But Lorraine wrote like the thing was radiating bad vibes through the cul-de-sac. Maya started noticing other things too. Lorraine patrolling the neighborhood with a clipboard, stopping to measure lawns, peering into driveways, lingering a little too long near certain houses. And there was a pattern once you knew to look for it. The houses she hovered around belonged to military families, government contractors, people who were gone a lot, people whose spouses were left behind to deal with everything alone. One afternoon, Lorraine cornered Maya in our driveway. Maya told me the woman was breathing hard, face flushed, like she'd power walked across the street just to deliver this moment. "Rules are rules," she said. "And if your brother's lifestyle doesn't align with them, that's not my problem." Lifestyle. Like serving overseas was a hobby. That's when Maya started digging. My grandmother had kept everything. Old binders, meeting minutes, bylaws from decades back, stuffed into a dusty filing cabinet that probably weighed more than both of us combined. Buried in those papers was something interesting. The original HOA rules, written back in the 80s, explicitly protected military and government vehicles. Not just allowed them, protected them. Lorraine had been lying. And not just lying casually. She'd been fabricating rules, rewriting enforcement guidelines, counting on no one ever checking the fine print. Silver Hollow ran on fear and fatigue. People didn't push back because pushing back took energy, time, money. Things military families usually didn't have to spare. While I was dealing with real threats overseas, my sister was dealing with a different kind of pressure back home. Yellow violation slips taped to the front door. Neighbors suddenly going quiet when she walked by. Packages disappearing. HOA security cars idling at the corner longer than necessary. Then one night, Maya called me and didn't say anything for a long time. She just flipped the camera. The Jeep's security footage was playing on her laptop. Midnight, a flashlight beam cutting across the hood. And there she was, Lorraine, up close, sweating, breathing heavy, pressing her face near the window like she expected to see something explode. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as a nuisance and started seeing her as a threat. And the worst part was, she was just getting started. After that first night of footage, sleep became optional. Not impossible, just optional, the way it gets when your brain won't stop replaying a threat you can't physically confront. I was half a world away, trying to focus on briefings and checkpoints, while my sister was rewinding video clips of a grown woman circling our driveway at 1 a.m. like a shark that had learned how to walk. Maya started documenting everything. Every email, every slip of paper, every time a white HOA security SUV crept past the house a little too slowly. She didn't do it out of strategy at first. She did it because writing things down was the only way to stay grounded, the only way to convince herself she wasn't imagining the escalation. And it did escalate. Within a week, the Jeep's internal system logged 17 separate motion alerts. 17 footsteps, flashlight beams, someone trying the handles. Each time, the same silhouette, same rounded shoulders, same labored breathing that the microphone picked up faintly, like an engine running too hot. Maya confronted her once. She waited until daylight, until neighbors were out, until the situation felt just barely safe enough to speak. Lorraine was standing near the curb pretending to inspect a sprinkler head when Maya walked up and said, calmly, "You're trespassing. That vehicle is federal property. You need to stop." Lorraine turned faster than Maya expected, cheeks flushed, eyes sharp, the clipboard pressed tight against her chest. "I'm inspecting community hazards," she snapped. "That vehicle is destabilizing property values." "It's a government vehicle," Maya said, voice shaking but steady. "You don't have authority here." Lorraine smiled, not a friendly smile, the kind that says you don't understand how small you are yet. "I have whatever authority is necessary to protect this neighborhood." That sentence told me everything I needed to know about how she saw herself. The next morning, HOA security showed up in force. 2 guards, rented uniforms, white SUV with magnetic decals slapped on the doors. They parked across from the house and filmed the Jeep every hour on the hour. They questioned neighbors. They told an elderly woman down the street that military vehicles attracted criminals. They told another neighbor that surveillance equipment could be dangerous. Fear spreads faster than facts. Then came the vandalism. Maya walked outside one afternoon and froze. Her car sat crooked in the driveway, all 4 tires flat, side mirror shattered, red spray paint streaked across the windshield. Military scum. The letters were sloppy, angry, uneven. Maya didn't cry at first. She just stood there, phone shaking in her hand, trying to breathe. I watched it all through a screen. I wanted to punch something. I wanted to be anywhere but where I was. She filed a police report. It went nowhere. No witnesses. No cameras except ours. And that footage never quite caught the act itself. Just a shadow moving off frame. Just enough to confirm what we already knew but couldn't prove. That same day, one of the HOA guards cornered Maya in a grocery store parking lot. He stood too close, spoke too quietly, like he didn't want witnesses. "Ma'am," he said, "your brother's activities are concerning. Military personnel sometimes bring home problems. Weapons, trauma, surveillance gear. For community safety, we need information." Maya recorded the whole thing. Hands shaking, voice calm. When she sent me the video, something in my chest went cold. This wasn't harassment anymore. This was intimidation. Coercion. Someone fishing for information they had no right to ask for. But the clip that changed everything came 2 nights later. At 1:43 a.m., the Jeep's internal cameras activated again. Lorraine was back, closer this time, sweating through her blouse, hair plastered to her forehead, flashlight trembling in her hand. She tried the doors, press buttons, photographed the dashboard, whispered instructions to the guards standing just out of frame. She wasn't documenting violations. She was trying to access equipment. I sent everything to my legal officer. He looped in the right people. Within hours, the tone of the email shifted. Shorter, sharper. Words like compromised and protocol started appearing. The Jeep was flagged. Homeland-level systems quietly took notice. Meanwhile, Lorraine kept escalating, blissfully unaware that the ground beneath her was starting to crack. She filed emergency complaints with the local police, claiming Maya was unstable. She emailed the fire department, insisting the Jeep was an explosive hazard. She even contacted animal control about an aggressive dog we didn't own. Every false report added another layer to the paper trail she didn't realize she was building against herself. The thing about people like Lorraine is they don't know when to stop. Power, once tasted, convinces them they're untouchable. That rules only apply to other people. Everything snapped on a Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m. Maya's scream cut through the phone like glass. She ran outside, camera shaking, breath coming in ragged bursts. There was Lorraine again, this time in a bathrobe, hair wild, face blotchy with effort, bolt cutters clutched in her hands. A tow truck idled behind her, engine running, driver standing frozen like he'd wandered into the wrong movie. Clang. The first chain fell. Ma'am, the driver whispered, that's government property. I am the HOA. Lorraine shrieked, spittle flying. This vehicle is being removed. Clang. The second lock snapped. When the driver refused to hook up the Jeep, Lorraine did something even worse. She ordered the community gate locks changed, locked down the neighborhood, blocked federal access, trapped the vehicle inside. That single act flipped a switch she could never turn off. Neighbors poured out of their houses. Veterans from down the block showed up without being called. Someone started filming. Someone else called the news. And inside that Jeep, systems Lorraine didn't know existed were already screaming into the void. By the time the sun fully cleared the rooftops, multiple agencies were paying attention to one quiet suburban street. Lorraine stood there, chest heaving, bolt cutters dangling from her hand, still convinced she was in charge. She wasn't, and the reckoning was coming fast. By the time I got Willsdown back home, the story had already grown legs. Silver Hollow wasn't just a neighborhood anymore. It was a headline, the kind reporters love because it sounds ridiculous until you realize how serious it actually is. Federal vehicle targeted by HOA. Community president accused of obstruction. Suburban power abuse under investigation. The words felt surreal, like they belonged to someone else's life, not mine. The meeting was scheduled for that afternoon at the community center, the same beige building where my grandmother used to vote in bake sale contests and holiday raffles. When I walked in, the room didn't feel like Silver Hollow anymore. Federal marshals lined the walls, quiet and immovable. Cameras were everywhere. Veterans stood shoulder to shoulder near the back, not aggressive, just present like gravity had pulled them there. Then Maya stepped up to the microphone. I hadn't seen her in person since before all this started. She looked tired, thinner, but there was a steadiness in her I hadn't seen before, something forged, not borrowed. When she spoke, her voice didn't shake. For years, she said, this HOA used fear and fabricated rules to push out families who were easy to target. Military families, elderly residents, people who didn't have the time or resources to fight back. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Lorraine tried to interrupt. She was seated near the front, squeezed into a blazer that looked like it had lost a fight, face flushed, eyes darting. This meeting is out of order, she snapped. I'm the HOA president. A marshal raised a hand. Ma'am, you'll remain silent. That was the first time I saw it land. The moment she realized her voice didn't carry weight anymore. The prosecutor followed. Calm, precise, no drama needed. She showed the footage. Lorraine at the Jeep. The timestamps, the financial records, 6 figures siphoned from HOA funds into shell accounts tied to her husband's development business. Emails outlining plans to make Silver Hollow less transient, less military, less complicated. Each slide stripped away another layer of the persona Lorraine had built. The ruler-wielding enforcer, the self-appointed guardian of property values. What was left was something smaller and uglier. When the final image flashed, the one showing the exact second her bolt cutters triggered national security alerts, the room went silent. Then the cuffs came out. "Lorraine Hale," the marshal said, voice flat, "you're under arrest." She didn't stand at first. She gripped the chair, knuckles white, breathing shallow and fast. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, voice cracking. "My authority ends now," the marshal replied. Click, click. It was strange, watching someone lose everything in under 10 seconds. Not satisfying in the way movies make it look. Just final. Heavy, like a door closing. Her husband tried to slip out the back. He didn't make it far. The days that followed felt unreal. Charges were filed. Lawyers appeared. The HOA board dissolved overnight. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years started knocking on Maya's door with stories, with apologies, with thank yous they'd been holding in for too long. 16 months later, the sentencing happened. The courtroom was full. Not loud, just full. Lorraine entered in a tan jumpsuit that didn't quite fit, hands cuffed, ankles chained. She looked smaller somehow. Not thinner, just diminished. The arrogance was gone. So was the certainty. The judge didn't soften the language. "Your actions constituted systemic harassment under the guise of governance," he said. "This court will not tolerate suburban tyranny masquerading as community standards." 8 years. No parole. Restitution ordered. Her husband got 6. When the gavel fell, no one cheered. People just exhaled. Silver Hollow changed after that. The house Lorraine used as her command center, the one she'd paced through while plotting violations, was seized. The community voted to turn it into something else. A park, a memorial, a place that belonged to everyone. Kids play there now. Veterans gather under a flagpole where she once measured lawn edges with a ruler. Maya was elected HOA president by unanimous vote. She rewrote the bylaws. Transparent budgets. Explicit protections. Zero tolerance for harassment. National outlets called her a reformer. She shrugged it off. Said she was just tired of bullies. As for me, I stayed. Took a permanent position stateside. My grandmother's house became a meeting place, a place for coffee and hard conversations and planning sessions that felt hopeful instead of defensive. Some evenings, Maya and I sit on the porch and watch the neighborhood breathe. People laugh. Dogs bark. No one flinches when a uniformed vehicle drives by. And sometimes, when the wind moves just right through the trees, I swear I can hear my grandmother's voice, calm and certain, reminding us that standing up doesn't always look loud, but it always matters. Now here's what I want to ask you. Was Lorraine just a villain or a warning? How many places look peaceful on the surface while fear runs the paperwork underneath? And where do we draw the line between rules and control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. If you've lived through something like this, share it. If you disagree, say why. Stories like this don't end when the camera cuts. They end when people start talking. And if you think this could happen anywhere, that's probably because it already has.